to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with Najeh Wilkins, presented by georgiaconstructioncareers.com. A lot in store for today's show. Obviously, we're going to talk about the latest with the Elite 11 coming out and the finalists being announced. So 2 Georgia quarterbacks made that list. We'll talk about them in my top 10 headlines. That'll be later on in the show. And obviously, we'll talk about the latest with Georgia Tech 707. That's coming up in just 2 weeks. I'm not going to reveal all the teams. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to have an announcement for that, but I'm going to reveal the top teams I'm looking forward to the most to see. Obviously, I got to do some more research on those teams as well, but we'll talk a little bit about that, and then in the second segment, we'll break down some spring game film that I was able to see that a couple players sent in, so look at that and talk the latest with that. But we'll go ahead and start at the top of the hour and get into it with Corky Kell at 707, some top teams I'm excited to kind of see coming up on June 4th, which is only about a week and some change away. So, for me, June 4th, I'll start there. North Gwinnett is a team I really want to see. Right, I didn't get a chance to see them in the spring. This will be a good opportunity. Obviously, Ryan Hall is going to be the dual threat quarterback this year, doing a bunch of different things as far as being able to pass at a high level and being able to also be a good dual threat guy and run the ball. So I think what's interesting is obviously they had Julian Walters last year, but this year they're bringing over Tommy Lafayette from obviously Lambert. So I want to be able to see what does that offense kind of look like. Obviously, they're not going to be running the ball because it's 707, but how will he look kind of as a playmaker outside of the backfield, right? Catching passes and things like that. How will they look at receiver this year and playmaker-wise? Obviously, with Eric Ronning being there, who's going to be some other young guys to step up for them? And then defensively, I feel like they have a playmaker at every single level. When you look at Chandler Jordan, the 3-star prospect, when you look at Cole Funderburk, who's an edge / outside linebacker, when you look at Jake Godfrey, who's gotten a lot of buzz lately in the recruiting world. So they got pieces on every single level. I want to see what that kind of looks like for them. So I think it's going to be exciting. Interesting to see what Eric Godfrey can cook up. His second season with the program. And obviously he was implementing a bunch of stuff, a bunch of young guys stepping up last year. But now they'll be a more veteran-led type of a team. So it'll be intriguing to see how they're going to look. Next for me is going to be Kell. Obviously talked about our underrated and overlooked. Hayden got a good glimpse of them. But again, my first time seeing the new look team. Obviously he said quarterback is going to be one of those questions going forward with that program. Continue to see who's going to kind of emerge as their starter. So what better way to do that than to go to a 707 and be able to showcase your quarterback tree, your quarterback room, and see who kind of comes out on top. Landon Garrettson's one, and obviously they're going to work it out and see. So that's my question. And then receiver-wise, another player that's blown up, obviously is listed as an athlete, that is Braden Rouse. He's gotten a lot of buzz in the recruiting world, been picking up so many offers. So first kind of glance to see him. Be interesting to see what he does. Kind of listed as a tight end / wide receiver, so that's why they have him as an athlete. But what would he look like kind of the offense? They got a bunch of young guys at the wide receiver spot. And then we obviously know the two-headed monster they got in the backfield. Kentarius Mooney-Gibson, and obviously Tyreek Green, who plays a little bit of safety. So I'm sure he's going to get some run at both sides of the ball, obviously, in this tournament. So those are my biggest questions. Can't wait to see what they're going to look like. And also Jalen Williams is another DB. I'm interested to see who just transferred over from Dutchtown. So that will be interesting to see him up close and personal. Then an underrated team to kind of keep an eye on, also June 4th, is McIntosh. Got a couple different pieces. Obviously, Evan Ward is a player that plays both sides. Very big, athletic at 6'4", 6'5". He's going to be one to watch how they're going to look at quarterback. And then obviously on the edge, I don't know if he's going to play a lot, but they have a 6'8" guy whose film we'll look at a little bit later. It's Maddox Dykeman, 6'8", 260. So be interesting to see how McIntosh kind of comes out and how they're going to look. Another underrated team that I think will be intriguing is Aquinas out out there in Augusta, Georgia. Obviously, the quarterback had a really good year, 2,691 yards, 31 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. Got them all the way, I believe, to the quarterfinals before losing to Macon County in a thriller, 38-35. How will that team kind of progress? And they got some dynamic players. Buddy Rowe Guerrera is a player that's kind of been buzzing a little bit as well. I think he has up to 5-6 offers right now. And they got a young sophomore that's underrated, Jack Rhodes. Obviously, I have him listed as quarterback, but played a lot of receiver last year. 6'1", 175. He had 1,084 yards receiving and 17 touchdowns last year for them, and an incredible 9-3 season for Aquinas. So it's going to be intriguing. And I feel like they got all the pieces to make a run this year. Obviously, it'll look a little bit different with the new regional alignments, but they're going to be an intriguing team to see. And then another one of my sleepers is Southwest DeKalb. Had their head coach on. They were so young last year. He was coming into a new team. But I think this year they're budding with talent. Obviously, you know, the guy that gets a lot of the praise, and rightfully so, is Sam Turner, the dynamic wide receiver. And then Brandon Gunn is a playmaker, I think, on both ends. That's going to be intriguing. And Southwest DeKalb is pretty good in track. So they're going to have a lot of speed on that team this year. I think that's going to separate them. And they have a really good running back room as well. Can't forget about their quarterback. So that's one of my sleepers going into next year for football. Curious to see what that's going to kind of look like. And then another is Stockbridge for June 4th. Man, they're bringing over the DC, obviously the former DC of Cedar Grove, and they got also Bo Walker, who transferred over from Cedar Grove. So that's going to be intriguing at the running back spot. They got a guy that's going to be able, they can lean on, get the ball to, and he can go downhill. And then they got this freshman quarterback that's going to be really intriguing. His name is Josh Scott. 2027, he will be a sophomore this upcoming season, but they're giving him the full reins of that offense. So how will he look in a highly competitive environment and getting a little bit more taste of the team? Had a pretty good spring, but will be intriguing to see what he's able to do. And then Chase Taylor's obviously the heavily recruited player for the program. He's been doing his thing, and will be interesting to see how he kind of comes out. That linebacker, they're really good. I think Stockbridge is going to be very, very good on defense this year. Will the offense be able to keep up as well? So those are my teams to watch out for June 4th. June 5th, got to start with South Gwinnett. Obviously, another player film we're going to look at is Xavier Butler, all-around athlete. He was getting some run this spring at quarterback, wide receiver, running back. So he does a little bit of everything for them. And we know year in, year out, they're always going to have some great weapons. Whenever you look at South Gwinnett, and the program ran under Brian Lamar, you look at, obviously, last year, Jalen Lackey's another one. They're always good and got players that can be difference makers, but can they put it all together? They're always playing that tough region as well. So it's going to be intriguing to see them and what they kind of come out with and what they're going to kind of look like. But always have great playmakers, and Xavier Butler is another one. And then you look at Lambert. Obviously, he's going to have some new pieces. Lafayette's not there no more, but looks like their former wide receiver Cameron Bland has put on some muscle, put on some weight, and he looked like he's going to be the starting running back for their program. Another player that's starting to kind of get a little buzz in the recruiting world and picking up the offers. So he's going to be a major playmaker to watch for their program. They obviously are very, very good at the offensive line. So that's something they can hang their hat on going into next season as well. But will be interesting to see. And then I got to go with GAC for June 5th. Man, last year we saw what they're able to do. Came just short of a region championship. But they're going to have a new regime. No more Jack Stanton. No more GL Tiberia. No more Xavier Daisy. But they're going to be leading on their star wide receiver, and that's Gabe Daniels, who recently just narrowed down his top 3 teams. But he's going to be their main guy next year, and they're going to have a lot of young guys stepping up, which, as when I talked to Coach a couple months ago, they are loaded with young talent. So it'll be interesting to see how that is going to look. And then obviously Milton, I don't think we got a chance to see them last year. I know they went to the UGA 707 camp, but this year they'll be at Georgia Tech. So I'm excited to see them. Obviously, I went to their spring game. And man, I heard they put it on it. Another team we'll talk about here in a second. But that's going to be fun to see them kind of in that environment and see what they're able to do against some top talent. They might be one of those ones that win it. Obviously, they're going to have a heavy, heavy buzz on them going into, next year. And then I got to throw in, obviously, Douglas County. They are another team that, next year is going to be a lot of fun to watch. New quarterback coming in DJ Bordeaux. A lot of pressure on him because along with Carrollton, Douglas County is one of those you think, okay, they're going to be in the state title game. They're going to be one of those ones you have to watch out for. And both of those teams are in the same region. So I want to see how it's going to look. So many pieces, James Johnson, Aaron Gregory. Defensively, they're loaded. Good safeties, good play. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with all of that as well with that team. So they're going to be fun to watch. And then Ridge did not have a great spring game, but a pretty good spring, I think, overall. How would they rebound after kind of that loss? Craig brought up a great point, and he has on our shows, like they got blowed out by Kell, but then they was able to recover and look at the season they had, their first 10-win season since 2009. Will they be able to kind of rebound from that, turn that into a great season? Because they got playmakers all over. Dorian Barney, the Alabama commit, is really great defensively, but besides him, a lot of coaching staff believe this is the best secondary in the state. So, took a little bit of lumps on there, going up against Milton, and C.J. Wiley had a game, 2 touchdowns. But I think that was a good test for them to kind of see where they're at and kind of grow and see what's kind of next for the program. Then next, I got to go Sandy Creek, another great program. Obviously, I think it's going to be a little bit easier for them this year because they won't have to ask Dalen Pinson to do so much, right? That's the 4-star DB. A lot of colleges really want him. But when you have a quarterback that's coming in and you could just get the ball to your playmakers in space and let them do their thing without putting so much on them, knowing the reads, knowing the offense, knowing everything the defense is throwing you, being able to read the defense, you can just let them just go out there and react and just play. It definitely opens it up. And then they got one of the best running backs, I think, in the state, and that's Amari Latimer. And I don't say that lightly. I think he is the guy. Like, he's just a very, very, very special talent. So that, I think, is going to help their offense a lot. And then what was interesting in the spring, I was looking up on X and Twitter, Evan Harvey, who's their star defensive lineman. So that is going to be really intriguing. And then I got to throw some love, obviously, to some of the DeKalb/Atlanta schools, Miller Grove. What would they look like this year? It won't have some of the same team that they had last year that was really, really good. And then Decatur, young team, really good. Caleb Lanier is obviously their headliner, but when I talked to him a couple months ago, he said they got some good young talent at defensive back and also at linebacker. So they're going to be a fun one to watch as well. And then June 11th, obviously Craig has mentioned a lot on his show, and I 100% agree with him. Houston County had their coach on, talked to him a little bit, but the weapons that they're going to have for Antoine Hill won't have, obviously, Ricky anymore. You're not going to have some of them same pieces. But what would it look like with the new talent they brought in? Obviously bringing in Peyton Joseph at the offensive line area. At certain parts of the year, they struggled a little bit, but now you kind of get a staple on the offensive line in the interior that can block really well. That should help. And I think the biggest question is, will Antoine Hill take that next step? We know how good of a quarterback he is, but can he go and take them over top? Can they get past the second round of the playoffs? Phenomenal coaching, good HC, but can they finally take that step forward? And obviously, Hill's one of the top quarterbacks in the state, but now it's more now than ever because this is it. This is his last year, so they got to be able to make a run and do something different. So they're going to be fun to watch. Can't wait to see how they look as well on June 11th. And obviously North Atlanta with Ian Reynolds in there. Salim Davis is another one. And I got to see his playoff game last year, and I've seen some flashes, man, but he got to put it all together. He's obviously got T.J. Wilcox as a transfer. Will Buford do what they did to kind of come in for the program? That is the biggest question with Buford. So what better way to answer that than at Georgia Tech 707 June 11th? That'll be a great question to kind of ask and to kind of find out with their program who is going to be the starter, because we know they're loaded with talent, right? We know how they look at receiver this year. Running back wise, they're very deep. Justin Baker's a Tennessee commit. We know what they can do with obviously Hayden Bradley, another awesome receiver with them. Jordan Allen, they're loaded on both sides of the ball. But can Buford get back? Because there is quietly kept pressure on that program to perform at a high level. So that's going to be intriguing to see. And then obviously Craig's Walton, a new year, but I heard from a couple sources that Gilstrap looked pretty good in that spring game against East Paulding. So that was one of their questions as well. Obviously, Drew Cascone, who's picked up offers from Miami of Ohio, Georgia. He is going to be at the forefront of the game we got coming up in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic between Walton and Brookwood. It's going to be very, very intriguing to see. I know Brookwood got some pieces in there, but with Walton adding new different things, I think that's going to be a very, very intriguing game as well. And then got to throw in Alpharetta, new quarterback. Josh Sleddy, like, how would he kind of look with that team? Lost some pieces, don't have Ethan Barber anymore. Won't have, obviously, their outstanding wide receiver, Sean Wilson. So it's going to be a new regime and another team with pressure on it. Got to be able to make a longer run this year for the team and be able to come out on top. And then for June 11th, got to be Mill Creek. How will they look? Obviously, Dog Martin is going to be at the forefront, 4-star prospect according to ESPN, but won't have Trajan Greco anymore. no more Cam Robinson. So they're going to have pieces they got to replace. And I don't know a lot about the program. Honestly, I have to do my research on that. But they're going to be an interesting team to watch. And the last two, Westlake and Wesleyan. Wesleyan got a dude at quarterback that can really play. And he don't also always get the love, but he had over 30-plus touchdowns, over 3,000 yards passing last year, led them deep into the postseason. They got some dudes on that Wesleyan team, so I can't wait to see how they look. And then last but not least, Westlake is another one. Obviously, we have these same questions with Westlake, kind of comparing them to kind of Newton a little bit. You know, will they finally get over the hump? Uber talented, year in, year out. Travis Smith Jr. is the headliner for them. But can they finally make a run? Can Westlake finally contend? Or will it be one of those same seasons we see again? And it won't be easy. You got Douglas County and Carrollton all in your region, right? But do you want to be at home to start your first round of playoff games? Or are you going to be on the road? So they're going to have to be one of those teams to kind of get that spot and not have to start out the playoffs on the road. It's just what it is, but I know they're uber talented. Let's see what they can do. They can finally pull it together. All the talent that they've had come through that program. A.J. Terrell, Avion Terrell recently, Nate Wiggins, who's now in the NFL. I mean, just talent galore. So I can't wait to see what they are going to do this upcoming year. Last but not least, June 12th, finally excited to see Prince Avenue Christian with their new quarterback. I had a chance to see him, man, and he looked impressive, obviously, in their spring game. But no more Aaron Philo, so who is going to be the successor to him in his game? I think that would be intriguing to see for their program as well. Obviously, Ben Muser is there. I think he is probably maybe the favorite, but I heard they have a guy that might kind of supersede him and might start this year. So that'll be interesting to see who's going to be QB1 for Prince Ave. But they do so good at getting those young guys and those receivers and being able to get them to play at a high level. So got Prince Ave, North Cobb Christian. I got to see their spring game. Spring game was really, really good. And I told y'all, man, Teddy Gerard is that dude, man. He already up to 3 offers. He's going to continue to go up and up. He just recently picked up a Wisconsin offer. Telling y'all, man, if you want to get on a QB early, that is the QB to watch out for. So we'll get a chance to see him June 12th at Georgia Tech. That would be fun to see as well. I got to throw in South Paulding in there as well with Cade Wigington as a rising junior quarterback, along with some of their pieces and weapons. Jay Sanker's another one that they got that's pretty good. He'll be intriguing to watch. And then Lanier and Norcross, obviously Coach Maloof with Norcross, a new team. But Jashawn Clark is a player I'm hearing that's buzzing a lot at the receiver spot. Had a touchdown in the spring game against Buford. Looked it very, very, very good. So Norcross is going to have some new pieces. And I can't forget about Jamari Harrell. That's another player that's up to, I believe, 12 to 13 offers right now. Will be a team to kind of watch out for next year as well. And then you got to throw in Lanier, obviously with Coach Tyler Maloof. Young team, but I think they're going to surprise some people this year as well to see how they come out. And the last two for me is going to be Parkview and Hebron Christian. Hayden put me up on some game, obviously with Hebron Christian, and I think it's great for his career. And that's C.J. Britt, obviously a player that has a lot of Power 4 programs on his radar that are recruiting him very, very heavy, but he will be their quarterback. So that adds some intrigue to that game coming up in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic when they play. Finally having kind of that guy at quarterback, a team that has not I don't think ever been in the Corky Kell. So now we got some intrigue with him coming over from Lanier Christian Academy to their program. And then Parkview, they got so many young studs, man. When you look at their team, Kevin Caldwell, Julian Elsey, those are going to be the guys. It was like, well, who's going to replace Jalen Crawford, right? Who's going to replace a Mike Matthews? Who's going to replace a Zealous Hicks? Julian Elsey and obviously Kevin Caldwell are going to be the guys. And them boys is ready. They hungry. They young. And they were former freshmen. They will be rising sophomores this year, man. So it's going to be exciting. That's my thoughts, obviously, on that. Those are going to be the teams to watch. There's so many more. It's like up to, I believe, over 100-plus teams, 4 days over. So I still got to do more research. But that's my thoughts on teams to watch out for when we do go in a week and a half or so. All right, so now, last but not least, to conclude this segment, we got to look at the top 247 sports. Just came out. They just released their 5 stars. So at number 1, they have Bryce Underwood. Got a chance to see him, man. And, man, you talk about a guy that can sling that ball. Woo. Man, I mean, tight windows, long balls, double coverage. Hey, the kid's is different. So LSU definitely want to hold on to that commitment of him because he is one of those guys that's just a pro